Our next guest says Baltimore can take some lessons from Las Vegas. Joe Scalia is an attorney who lived in Las Vegas for about 20 years. He's a Little Italy native, recently moved back to Baltimore. In fact, he came back to town just a few weeks before the late April riots. He has outlined his plans online for Baltimore and what he calls the Great Baltimore Bounce Back, 1 million residents in 10 years. Joe joins us in studio.
Good morning, Baltimore.
Good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good to be here. Good to be back.
Glad. Okay, when we think of Las Vegas, you think of gambling, you think of the desert, you think of a tech industry and a housing bubble that burst. So what can Baltimore learn from
In 1950, Baltimore had almost 1 million residents, 949,000. Vegas had less than 25,000. So as we speak right now, Baltimore's population is stabilizing. It's actually growing a little bit. And Vegas is now over 600,000 people. They've enjoyed exponential growth over the past 50 years. And why is that? Number one, their whole environment, their whole policy is different. And I'll give you a little example. Baltimore has so much to offer that other cities in the West and the Southwest would die to have. We have an array of universities. We have an array of public professional schools. We have an array of facilities. We have manufacturing. Our manufacturing base. We have a port. We have all of these natural resources.
Manufacturing base isn't what it once was, but it's still there.
But it's still there. We have avionics. We have, and then we have the transportation network. You can get anything, anywhere on the East Coast within 24 hours from Baltimore. We have.
But there are some who say, the transportation needs to be improved. Mass
it does.
transit.
All these things, everything always is to be improved. That's the state of human existence. We're never going to get around that. Right. But Baltimore has certain key ingredients that, if utilized properly, we should be banging. And what I mean by that is this. In 1950, when we had 949,000 residents, the country only had 150 million people. Mm-hmm. Statistically, if the same ratio, it should be close to 2 million. But it's not. And it's very simple why it is not. It is poorly managed.
Okay. And this doesn't matter who's mayor, whether it's Rawlings Blake, whether it's Kurt Schmoke, whether it's Martin O'Malley.
And I'm not here to pick on the politicians.
Right.
But Baltimore has this local sort of thing. I don't know how to describe it. And I even said to your news guy, the Baltimore bounce back. Oh, good luck. It's this negative attitude. You walk into any place in Vegas, you say to someone, how do you like living here? We love it. We might not have water. We might not have we have a big traffic problem. They have the same problems that Baltimore has. But the difference is their outlook. And this is what it all boils down to. Vision. There is no vision here. We're always looking backwards. Okay. We're never looking forwards. I'll give you an example. I'm walking around downtown, and this woman is asking me for a location. I say to her, well, I'm from La Jolla, California. I'm here for a nursing convention. And I am shocked at how nice Baltimore is.
They seem surprised.
They are surprised.
Now, there's the perception that people don't feel safe in Baltimore. Even tourists. That lady from La Jolla was surprised.
And why is that?
They'll see the footage of the riots. They'll hear stories. It's not as much, for some people, for tourists coming in or suburbanites coming in, it's not necessarily drug crimes that they're worried about. It's not necessarily, homicides they're worried about. They're worried about their car being broken into, and then neighbor's car was broken into.
Two things. Baltimore, every major city has this sort of petty crime problem. I'm not going to get into all the stuff about the war on drugs. Right, I'm not going off. But what Baltimore can learn is this. Baltimore has allowed its view. What is the Baltimore brand? When you think Vegas, you think, party, good time, blah, 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 blah.
What happens
you think
Vegas
New York.
Vegas.
You're right. You think New York. You think, center of industry in the stock market. You think San Francisco. You think Baltimore. We've allowed our city to be defined by homicide, by wire, by these TV shows, which are, in essence, entertainment products. They don't really care about reality. That is there's no balance. That's all there is. That's all that's focused on, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why isn't Baltimore advertising? It doesn't have to be like a sales pitch. Look at all these great things that we have here. It's got to be balanced. The message is negative. And since the riots, all people have ever talked about is the riots.
That's right.
And as riots go, in pantheon of riots, it wasn't a big one. Some stores got burned down. Terrible, but no one got killed. There wasn't mayhem.
There's an effort to call it unrest, even in the media, rather than riots.
Call it whatever you want. It's not good, but that should not be the sole public perception of the city. There's so much more going. Like no one talks about. Like I'll give you an example. There are a friend of mine works at a bank. There are 2,000 new units coming online in Baltimore City.
Okay.
Baltimore City is the fourth. I think the fourth best place to have a startup for a high tech. It's the fifth best growing for millennials. I won't say
millennials,
but I said millennials, right?
Right, sure.
Right. So all these positive things are going on. Nobody ever reports it. I mean, if you pick up the newspaper today, you have the ship in the harbor.
Right.
It's all the popular culture, the media in particular, and then they feed this negative attitude. Like, for example, Vegas doesn't have a major league football team.
No.
They don't have a baseball team. Vegas would die to have a Ravens or an Orioles.
Sure.
So
there's been talk about moving a major league club or an NFL club to Vegas.
Right, right. But Baltimore has all of these things and a wide variety of them and a wide mix of them. And, so what it doesn't do, it does not present itself in a way. It lets other people define it.
Now, there's also a perception in Baltimore that some neighborhoods get all the attention. Downtown Inner Harbor gets all the attention. Little Italy, to a lesser, to some extent, Canton. I mean, you've come back and you've seen East Baltimore, you've seen Canton. That's gentrified. And there's the frustration among the folks in West Baltimore that they've been ignored. And that is in some ways that contributes.
Okay, I'll tell you this. I mean, they have been ignored because there's no growth, there's no economy. I mean, if you look at the unemployment rates, the black unemployment rate in particular, and the black teen unemployment rate in particular, it's off the charts. It's never been this high.
Right.
So where does that investment come from? It doesn't come from the city and the state and the federal government. That's always the answer in Maryland. Oh, we need a federal program. Oh, we need a state. No, we need jobs. And where do the jobs come from? The jobs come from the way Vegas did it, encouraging investment.
All right, but if you encourage investment, an investor will look at this, will look at Baltimore, look at the riots, look at everything like that, and say, I want my employees to feel safe coming to work and going to work.
Wrong. That's not how investors think.
I, as an employer, think about that? I mean,
no. You say, "Wow, look at the rate of return I'm getting on this investment." If I did the same project in New York or New Jersey or outside of Philly, I might break even, but at least in Baltimore, I'm going to make some money. That's what's drawing the investment, and I'll tell you why that is. New York, overpriced. San Francisco, overpriced. All these other cities are overpriced. Baltimore is at a key point right now where it's an investment value. And that's what's drawing all this investment. Now, instead of Baltimore discouraging it or worse than that, ignoring it, most people aren't even aware of it. I also have a degree in economics, too. So they're not aware of the investment pouring into the city, and therefore they're not facilitating it. I'll give you an example. If you want to build a project in Las Vegas, you buy the land, you submit your thing, you get your permits, and you build it.
Right.
Can you imagine? You know what it's like in Baltimore?
Much more bureaucracy. I mean,
you have all these things and these design committees.
Right.
Now, I mean, it should be streamlined.
Okay.
If someone's willing to pump money into the city, and I say, well, get back to West Baltimore. I mean, West Baltimore would be other cities have been through this. Look at the Bronx. Look at Brooklyn. It's a matter of changing the policies. Different policies equal different results.
Very quickly, because we have less than a minute to go here. What do you want to do with this effort? I mean, you've got a great website, and you've been writing a lot about this. What do you want to do with this?
I think ultimately what we're going to do is get all the small businesses, all the big businesses. If you look on the website, there's 1,000 at least community associations.
Sure.
Development authorities, improvement districts. Yeah. They're all going in 1,000 different directions.
Okay.
If everybody got on the same sheet of our vision of having 1 million residents, that growth allows the money for infrastructure improvements, school improvements. A lot of our problems are solved. Now, of course, we get different problems. Right. We might have traffic problems, but those are good problems to have as opposed to a declining population and unrest.
Website address?
thegreatbaltimorebouncback.org, or you can call me if you find this interesting at 443-814-9514.
And we'll put a link to your site, our site, WBAL.com. Joe Scalia, the Great Baltimore Bounce Back.
Good to be back, everybody.
All right, good to have you with us here on Maryland's News This Week. We appreciate it, my friend.